Happy Friday, basketball friends. Hopefully it's the last day of your work day. I hope you get to start enjoying the really nice weekend we have ahead of us. It's so beautiful here in Chicago. I've been David Hubbard. Right there is Mr. TJ Hopkins. And if you're looking for consistent content on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, you've come to the right place. We go live basically every single day, including Sunday, where we're going to be doing our final team in the AFC North. Cincinnati Bengals breaking down their season preview episode. So you don't want to miss that content. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Pride Sports World. But today we're doing basketball, the crossover. Feels like it's been a couple weeks since we've done a crossover episode. Maybe not. Maybe I don't. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, welcome into the crossover. TJ, what's up, buddy? How are you, man?
I ain't been to sleep yet, so.
Yeah, so we'll try to bang through this real quick so you can get some sleep, man. I understand how it is working those overnight shifts. I also shared the StreamYard link to all of the places. This will be on our main Prime Sports World Facebook page. So if you want to join us and talk a little bit of basketball, talk a little bit of free agency, talk a little bit of winners, losers, you are more than welcome to do so. But as I mentioned on every show, please keep your comments PG because we do not want to get in trouble with the Zuckerberg. Let's just talk about free agency as a whole before we get into actual individual winners and losers. Just overall, like, what were your takeaways from free agency so far this cycle? I know it's not completely over, but it feels like all of the big moves have been made. Like, we'll talk about some of the other stuff later, but it feels like the major moves. Can you not? Sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you kind of said it. It's incomplete. It's not done, and well, it's incomplete depending on who you ask. To me, this is over. This is done. Those dominoes that people are waiting for to fall, they're not falling. It's just not happening. And the three dominoes or four dominoes I'm particularly talking about. It's just not happening. So, you know, Laker fans give up because the domino that you want gone, he's not going anywhere. He's staying right where he's at. And the two dominoes in Brooklyn are also likely to not be moved either. So give up. They're not going anywhere. But it was really thrown into a bit of a pause by Minnesota. Right, like they were the ones who kind of mucked this whole thing up because when you give up 5 first round picks for
For Rudy Gobert, no offense to him,
no
but
big offense because Rudy Gobert is not that much of a needle mover for you to give up your future, basically. So you're looking at Minnesota as all right. You're officially in win now mode. You've moved up the term David likes to use. You've moved up your timetable by a wide margin to the point where if you don't get to the Western Conference Finals, it's a failure. Forget forget the NBA. Like in order to get to an NBA Finals, you have to get to a Western Conference Finals to even justify this trade. Right? If you lose in the first or second round after you make this trade, it's a fail. It's a failure.
not to mention, I mean, we'll get to Minnesota here, either whether it be winners or losers. But this roster is going to get real expensive real quick. Like Anthony Edwards is going to need a new contract at some point in the I think next offseason even he's going to be eligible for a full max rookie extension, which I'm for sure they're going to sign him to because he's probably the best player on the team. This roster is going to get real expensive. We're talking about like pushing into the luxury tax expensive. Is Minnesota going to want to push it to the luxury tax for a team that's like the 4 or 5 seed in the West? I don't know. And
Old ownership, absolutely not. Right? Old ownership doesn't even make this trade, but
it's true. It's true they don't.
but that's new ownership. A Rod is the headliner of the new ownership group. Like it's not his. Like the Minnesota Timberwolves are not solely his, but he's the most recognizable name of that ownership group. So like everybody is going to be looking at him. Like he's going to have to shoulder much of the criticism because everybody that like nobody knows the outside of Timberwolves fans. Like nobody knows the owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves.
So,
So
so let's get into it. So my number one takeaway, a bunch of players got really big time paid. It's nice to see some players get the bag. Yeah, I think really the big pause, not only the Minnesota Timberwolves trade, kind of that Kevin Durant trade request kind of coming out of nowhere, and then kind of like all of the problems with his trade scenario. Like, in fact, he's under contract for 4 more years. So, like, if you want to, then the Brooklyn Nets have mortgaged their future for James Harden. So, like, if you're going to trade away Kevin Durant, you have to get something actually intangible back. You can't just trade him away for draft picks and young players. Like, you have to get something decent back for him. And then now having Ben Simmons on the roster really limits the amount of trades that they can make. It's been an interesting offseason, that's for sure. I mean, DeJounte Murray went for $1 billion first-round picks too, and I'm not, we'll talk about that trade as well in as we get into it. So let's talk about winners and losers. Let's start with on the positive side of things. Winners, NBA free agency, 2022 free agency.
Every player who got a max contract. Like that's just let's kick this off. Let's kick this off with the basic, right? Like every player who got a max contract or an extension, you are the winner. Why? Because this is a game, right? This isn't your life. This is a game, and David likes to point out this game only takes up a third of your life, right? Like maybe even less than a third. Right, 20 like this game is probably 20% of your life, your entire life, that you're not going to be able to play for forever, right? So everybody wants to, and I'll get into the hypocrisy of it on a later date, but they compared Damian Lillard's lifetime earnings by the time he's going to be 36 to LeBron's lifetime earnings when he was 36. So by the time Damian Lillard's 36, like you'd already know, like he's gonna be,
Yeah, I saw that.
he's gonna be like 40 million short of half a billion, right? He's gonna be $465 million richer. That means like his kids and his kids' kids and his kids' are set for life, right?
Yeah, we're talking about generational wealth here. Like we're not just talking about like you being set up for life. Your entire house could be set for life based on the contracts you're signing this offseason.
And so like Shannon Sharp and everybody else, like so Damian, like you can say about Damian Lillard that Damian Lillard could not win a championship. He's not going to lose an ounce of sleep over that, and he's okay with that. But somebody like Russell Westbrook, who says basketball isn't everything, you drag him through the mud for basically saying the same thing, and it's like, but you can't say that's okay for Dame, and it's not okay for Russell Westbrook. Like that's the hypocrisy in that logic.
I think there's a lot of hypocrisy connected to Russell Westbrook.
Absolutely.
Let's be 100% about it. There's a lot of hypocrisy that's attached to the name Russell Westbrook. Let's be.
And I get that a player like DeAndre Ayton got a max, but he's kind of a loser in my opinion, and we'll get to that. So I'm gonna say him for that. Like I got it. He got his max. It's like you got the bag. That's cool. But you're in a situation where it got ugly, and you might not feel all too welcome because, to David's point, it took another team offering you a max deal for you to get a max deal.
Yep.
So like that's that.
And he didn't even get the full max that you're eligible for, like that he was technically eligible for, like because he had to go get that deal from Indianapolis or from the Pacers. He didn't even get the as much money. He left a bunch of money on the table because Phoenix didn't want to offer him the contract that he thought he was worth. And then when he finally does get a new deal, they just straight up and go out and match it immediately. Like it's a crappy thing to do. It just straight up is. Like
so winners, everybody who got a bag, certain owners are winners because like they are. If you look at the fine print and the fine print within the fine print of these contracts, these owners are not playing games anymore.
Well, that fine print on the Zion Williamson contract is awfully interesting, isn't it?
They are not.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about, his body fat plus his body weight cannot go over 295, or else he loses guaranteed money, like incentives in his contract. So he has to have at least 20% body fat and then not weigh over 275 pounds.
Yeah.
Like that is quite the clause. I don't think that's ever been in a contract before.
Well, Zion's kind of one of one. Like you've never really had a player of his size. I mean, with that athleticism, you've had players of his build before. Like Zach Randolph wasn't exactly a skywalker or a skyscraper. Zach Randolph was every bit of 6'5", 6'6". He probably never weighed as much as Zion weighs, but you could count on Zach Randolph to be there, in shape or out of shape, all of that. Zach Randolph was gonna get up. He was going to be there. He was going to give you a good 21 and 10, 11, 21 and 10.
Not to mention, Zach Randolph was never like a Showtime dunker. Like where you watch some of the stuff that Zion Williamson's capable of doing, dude. It's like, wow. It's like, all right, dude, you're 300 pounds. How are you doing that?
So the NBA, the NBA in general is a winner because it's you got these marquee names, and you got guys that you know 20 years ago they probably wouldn't even get close to the money that they're getting now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so like 20 years ago, a dude like Zach Levine probably does no. Zach Levine probably was gonna get his money either way
Yeah.
it go.
Yeah.
You like better yet, a guy like Jalen Brunson, a six man, getting $100 million like 20 years ago. That's no. That's
Man, I also think the NBA. So like I think that like the Knicks are going to get in trouble for how all of that Jalen Brunson stuff transpired.
that when you look at it like yo, like he's on the team before,
Mhm.
but before you even make it official, you go out, you get his dad on the
Yeah,
team.
like his godfather is like
Yeah, Worldwide West.
yeah, it's like involved with the franchise. Like all everything about that just seems like
Not only
all sorts of tampering that I think the league is going to be like.
not only that, like Knicks players and representatives were at the Suns Mavs games. Like
Yeah.
they were at some of those games, and it's just like, and I just think back to a year ago, and the Bulls fantasy, like you got the Bulls and the Heat for tampering with two guys that signed with them, and it's like if that's tampering, if what the Bulls did to get Lonzo Ball and what the Heat did to get Kyle Lowry, if how they went about that is tampering, what do you call what the Knicks did to get Jalen Brunson?
It's true.
Like I said,
Without a doubt.
like you can't say, oh, that's tampering, but this is we're gonna let that slide. Like no, that's not how that works. Like you got to call it down the middle, straight by the book. Like yo, that's tampering. Call it.
I do think there'll be event. I think there's going to be something of it on the pipelines here eventually. Like they'll probably lose a second round pick or something at some point. So my big winner actually is the Boston Celtics. Regardless of if they make this Kevin Durant trade, I do not think they will at this point. But for them to get Malcolm Brogdon for basically nothing, a future first round pick that'll probably be like in the 20s somewhere around, and for some role players that you weren't really playing, Daniel Tice, I don't remember who the other piece was. And then for you to get Danilo Gallinari basically for the mid-level exception after he got bought out by San Antonio after being traded there as part of the DeJounte Murray trade. I mean, Boston was 2 games away from winning the title, and they've reloaded and made their team even better than it was before. I mean, they didn't lose any of their pieces that were essential to making a run towards the NBA title. And to add Malcolm Brogdon, who's a really good floor general, who can shoot the basketball a little bit, he can play make for you when you want to get the ball out of Jason Tatum's and Jalen Brown's hands a little bit. He can create for you. And Danilo Gallinari is still a 40% three-point shooter and gives you something you don't already have on this roster, a stretch four who can stretch the floor and kind of clear some space out for Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown to make those cuts to the basket. Boston is a big winner for me.
And the underlying factor is people like, yo, he's 6'10". Gallinari is 6'10". Like I don't think people realize how like people tend to forget like how big Danilo Gallinari is. I'm like, yo, bro, buddy is 6'10". Like that's 6'10 to 6'10. I don't care like how you stretch it, like how you try to slice 6'10 to 6'10. I like your Boston Celtics pick. I'm trying to think like if we go by if we're going by like a team aspect, then what's his name? I don't like. I wouldn't call. I don't know if you would call the Golden State Warriors a winner because Gary kind of like.
I mean, they're somewhere in between. I mean, you lose, Gary Payton the third. You lose Otto Porter Jr., which is pieces that were essential to your title run. But you basically replace them with Dante DiVincenzo, and hopefully to develop. Like James Wiseman was awesome in the summer league. Like so was Kuminga in the summer league. Like Moses Moody was awesome in the summer league. Like you're hoping that those 3 guys take the leap that like replaces Otto Porter, and you hope that Dante DiVincenzo, who's now an entire year removed from breaking that ankle, who looked like a shell of himself last season. But you hope that like now that like, as you always talk about, this offseason, it's not about rehab. It's about getting better on your game. So he's not going to have to spend an offseason rehabbing. He's going to have an offseason working on his craft. And as you always say, that second season is more important towards your game than that first season. So you're hoping Dante DiVincenzo can actually, expand his game, because when he was in Milwaukee, he was a really good piece. Like he was a 3-and-D wing who could really shoot. He could, take the ball back, score off the wing. And you hope that you get that old DiVincenzo, not whatever we saw in Sacramento last year.
Well, to his to his defense, he was in Sacramento. Like,
Yeah,
like it's like so like you and they're gonna have to make a some more decisions, right? Like, do you extend?
I mean, they don't have to make that decision until next offseason, but yeah.
But it's the fact that it's being talked about now, and we always bring up like, hey, like some decisions you can't. I mean, like calendar wise, you have to wait on it, but the conversations are being had now. Like you gotta that Draymond Green extension, like that's a real conversation. All right, so it's like, do we pay Draymond Green or do we let him walk? Do we pay Jordan Poole or do we let him walk?
Same
Like,
thing. I mean, same thing with Andrew Wiggins. I mean, they next offseason, I mean, Klay Thompson can opt out of his contract next offseason. Draymond Green can, I think, is either just a straight free agent or he can opt out of his contract. Like, this Golden State Warriors team is going to have to make some real decisions next offseason.
and if you look at like, while Andrew Wiggins wasn't necessarily a bust, he was very underwhelming when you look back at his career in Minnesota as a number one overall.
100%. I mean, he put up 20 points a game, but they were just empty.
They were just empty. They were empty numbers. And so you also got to look at it like, if Steph Curry doesn't go absolutely bananas the last few games of the NBA Finals, Andrew Wiggins is Finals MVP.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So like it's like, yeah, it's some serious conversations that has to be made over there in the Bay. But as you always like to say, everybody can't be winners, you know.
Well, I got a couple other winners. Hold on, real quick, before we move on. Yeah, hold on. I got the Philadelphia 76ers. The fact that they were able to get James Harden to opt out of that $47 million contract and re-sign for, I think he took a $15 million pay cut to sign a team-friendly deal in order to, rebuild up this roster. Re-sign Daniel House for free agency. I think he played in Utah last season. A good role player who gives them depth at the wing. And, PJ Tucker. Everywhere PJ Tucker has gone the last few seasons, he's won. He's a winner. And then I got Utah to get what they got in order for Rudy Gobert it's a king's ransom. I don't really understand. Like, Utah's a big winner, especially if they make a Donovan Mitchell trade between now and the start of the season, which I still think is possible. I still think that might happen. If that asking price goes down just a hair, I think he's going to end up in New York. So Utah's a big winner. For the last one. Go ahead.
The 6 draft picks for, I'm like, we just got, again, who do y'all think Donovan Mitchell is, bro? Like,
he's a good player.
Don't
and his playoff numbers his playoff per game averages are absurd.
Hey, don't get me wrong. Like, Danny Ainge is probably the king GM of finessing other GMs.
It's true.
All right, like Danny.
Billy King the business, and whoever the GM is in Minnesota the business. So.
Like, Danny Ainge has probably been, for him to get Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen for what he got them for, and it's just like, and to parlay that into like the lone championship of that group, it's like, okay, Danny Ainge, like, you're a pretty solid GM, but a fool is born, a sucker's born every minute, and he's gonna keep looking for that sucker to buy until he gets something palpable that he likes for Donovan Mitchell. Me personally, if I'm the Utah Jazz, along with them ugly ass uniforms, we'll get to them in a little bit.
Yeah, it's true.
They a loser for me because them ugly ass uniforms they got coming out. But who's your other one? I'm sorry.
So my final winner is the San Antonio Spurs. Finally committing to, I guess, badness, to a rebuild. Like, for so long, Spurs have kind of treaded the water and kind of been a borderline NBA team. They're not really good enough to get the first overall pick. They're not really bad enough to be good enough to be a playoff team. So I think it's good that the Spurs are finally committing to being, hey, we're gonna stink for a season or two, and maybe they'll end up getting Netanyahu out of it, because that dude is going to be
Wembanyama, Izzy's boy. So and I get that's probably a tough reality for Spurs fans, and Greg Popovich in general because outside of like the first year Popovich got the job and now all Popovich knows is winning
Yeah, it's
and
true.
successful.
I mean,
Being
even last year they were in the play-in somehow, like for real.
right. And
I
it's
mean, but if you look at that Spurs roster right now on paper, it might be the most least talented roster in the NBA right now.
so it's
Like
like
they don't have anything going for them.
I always compare, especially during their heyday, I always compare the San Antonio Spurs as the New England Patriots of the NBA because every time you looked up New England, they're 11, 12, 13 wins. They're in the playoffs. They go into bare minimum an AFC championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Spurs literally had 2 decades, 20 years of winning at least 50 games. That's never going to be done again. It's just not going to be done. Ever like 20 years of winning at least 50 games.
Yeah, and then now we can move into our losers. As we always mention, not every team can win an NBA free agency. Let's talk some major losers. My first one is the Lakers. I know they didn't have any cap space. I know they didn't really have any assets available to them. But the fact that the Lakers are going to roll back a roster that's even worse than the one they had last year that wildly underperformed is not a great. I do like Thomas Bryant on this team, and I think they can maybe resalvage Lonnie Walker's career. But like you're basically rolling back a team that's going to be worse player-wise than the team you had last year. There's no Carmelo on this team, no Dwight Howard on this team. Like, there's all of the stuff that they had last season, those veterans on this team, it's just none of those there. And they don't have – and like Taylor Horton-Tucker really didn't pan out as a guy they paid a bunch of money to last offseason. The fact that Lakers kind of just stayed pat is – yeah, it's not a good look for them. And then when you have a guy LeBron who can opt out next offseason and go wherever he wants to go, it's not a good look for the Los Angeles Lakers.
No, it's well,
and not to mention all of that is just a circus right now. Like the Lakers are a circus.
A big part of their obviously a big part of their downfall is the two guys in your two of the guys in your three-headed what was supposed to be a three-headed monster were in and out of the lineup so much it was like every time they were out it was almost like again.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, well, this is your season. This. We know what you are now. I don't like the disrespect of Russell Westbrook is just so outrageous and outlandish. It's almost like it's personal with how some of these dudes in the media talk. Because like, I will never take the words of guys in the media over guys who play the game. Like everybody who plays the game says if Draymond Green and Miles Bridges, who we'll get to, and everybody else who knows and been watching Westbrook the last season, if everybody who says, hey, it's disrespectful, like, yo, he can still play, then I'm going to take their word because they play against him. They know who he is. It's almost like you know what you're getting. And for him to say, for them to be like, Russ he didn't accept his role. His numbers went down. How is that not accepting your role? If like how is that not accepting your role? Like my numbers went from what they were in Washington. I averaged a triple-double in Washington to 18, 7, and 7. That how is that not knowing what I know I'm the third fiddle when myself, LeBron, and AD are on the court. I know that.
I just don't think he's a good basketball fit for like he doesn't shoot the ball particularly well, and like when you need to surround LeBron James with people who can shoot the basketball. I mean, like they never should have traded for him in the first place. Let's be honest. And like now that he's there, I think he was good last season. He had a good Russell Westbrook season, but he's just not a good fit next to LeBron. That's just what it is.
So what? Okay, like he's not a good he doesn't shoot the ball well from the field. All right, so.
But also the problem is that he thinks he does shoot it well.
44% isn't terrible. Like 44% from the field is not as bad as they're making it. Like they making it seem like he was,
It's not terrible, but it's also not ideal.
Like okay, like he's being paid all this. Okay, so like it's his fault that.
No, I'm not turning that money down. Hell no. Come on.
Thank you. Like it's his fault that he's making 44 million, and like they offered him that contract. Like what he's supposed to say? Like you know what? I'm not playing that well. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna opt out. But all this could have been null and void. Like because what did I say the whole bulk of the season about the Lakers? Like if life with Westbrook is that miserable, if it's just that unbearable, cut him. Eat the money, take that L, cut him. If it's that unbearable, they didn't do that. So I don't want to hear no complaining. I don't want to hear no nothing. I don't want to hear any of that because you could have cut bait with him when you had.
I mean, they could still waive him right now if they wanted to and use the stretch provision on his contract. My other couple, I got a couple other losers. My first one is Dallas.
Yes.
Losing Jalen Brunson, replacing him with nobody. I do like the JaVale McGee signing for this team. I think he gives it a defensive anchor that you've needed for the last couple seasons with Luka. But the point is to surround Luka with like other options, and like Jalen Brunson was somebody you should have tried to keep. And I don't necessarily think Jalen Brunson's worth the money that the New York Knicks paid for him. But if I'm Dallas, I think I would have fought a lot harder to make sure I kept that guy on my roster because they just need another secondary ball handler. Luka just can't do it all. I mean, he probably can, but he needs other guys who can facilitate the basketball and like make plays when he's not on the floor. Dallas is a loser for me.
I mean, like you lose Jalen Brunson. Like, well, you're a loser for how you handled the Jalen Brunson situation. Playing this because like at first you tried to lowball him, and kudos for Jalen Brunson for not accepting that offer because that's a perfect example of knowing your worth. Like you knew you were not worth the contract that Mark Cuban and the crew initially offered you, and it's a risk that you take. But you like,
and sometimes it pans out, and sometimes you end up.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you end up like Miles Bridges and Dennis Schroeder.
Like absolutely. Sometimes it pans out. Other times it's like you said, like it's the worst.
Yeah.
Because you cost yourself some money. But you replace
in some cases a lot of money.
A lot of money. But you add a wing that you desperately need in Christian Wood.
And I wouldn't call him a wing. I mean, come on, dude, he's 6'10".
He can play the three. He can play the
no,
three.
No, he can't. He cannot play. He's a power forward, and that is literally it.
He can play the 3 or the 4.
No, he can't.
Yes, he can.
He can't, dude. No,
yes,
he can't.
He can.
No, he can't.
Bro,
you find me some video of him playing the 3, like even last season. I will admit that I'm wrong, but he cannot play the 3.
Well,
he is not a small forward.
Admit you're wrong because Christian Wood was literally bringing the ball up for Houston, ball handling. Like that's what he does, bro. Like he can play the 3 or the 4.
No, he can't.
Yes, he can.
He's a power forward, dude. Come on.
He's listed as a power forward. He can play power. Like he starts at power forward. If they ask him to play small, he does that.
Okay. All right. I'll just let you have this one. I'll just let you have this one. That I don't agree with you at all, but no, I'm just gonna let you have it.
You sure you know basketball? Because
I know basketball, dude. He's not a small forward. He's not guarding other wings out there. He's a power forward / center.
He can play the 3 or the 4. I'm standing by that statement. But
all right, he will not play one play at the small forward position next season. I'm calling it now.
We'll see. But they, I think you got a steal in what's his name, Jaden Hardy.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that too.
He falls to the 2nd round. So I mean, like it's gonna be big minutes for him. Like it's big minutes available for him. So he just has to go in and do his part.
That dude killed it in the summer league.
Yeah. So like you just got to go in and do his part, and he'll be a quick piece to that rotation, super fast. Another loser is again the New York Knicks. Like you did all of that. You did all of that movement for Jalen Brunson. So like now you got to ask yourself, is Jalen Brunson your starting point guard now?
No, I mean they have. I guess he would be. I mean, even if they trade for Donovan Mitchell, I think he's still your starting point guard. I mean, you move whoever at the bench. I mean, Kemba Walker still not on this team, but like, I think he's your starting point guard.
Is he though?
I mean, who else they got? I mean, Derrick Rose is still on that team. He's not really. He's more of a bench player at this point in his career.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't
But yeah, I
know.
mean, but they spent they basically punted this entire draft in order to like make cap space and like traded away a bunch of players on their roster, no one's well, who were valuable to them in the season. They actually were productive and made with a 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. And your takeaway from it is you got Jalen Brunson.
So it's like you got Jalen Brunson, you got Isaiah Quigley. Like I don't know, like their roster construction is gonna be weird. Like I don't know.
It's true. They have. I mean, they're gonna have to figure it out. I mean, this might even be a team that's not particularly good next season. like
I don't know. Like you got the enigma that is Julius Randle. Like, what do you do with him? Because he goes from most improved to
they're stuck with him. They're stuck with him.
Like you went from most improved to unplayable, basically.
Well, I think that's why the incentive is there for the New York Knicks to find a way to make that Donovan Mitchell trade happen. Trade away Evan Fournier, trade away some of these young assets, give up 4 first-round picks. If you want to really, if you want if the Knicks are hard set on making the playoffs next season, get Donovan Mitchell. If they get Donovan Mitchell,
and then but then we're back to the question. All right, so what do you give up? Because if I'm the Utah Jazz,
Evan Fournier, Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin,
I don't want that.
4 first-round picks. Emmanuel, you can have Quentin Grimes too as a good young player.
Okay, the draft picks. Okay, I'll take that, but none of those.
We'll give you Cam Reddish too. It still has some potential.
I don't want that either. Like, the draft picks, yeah, you got me on the full draft picks, but none of the players you listed is named R.J. Barrett.
I know, I hear you, but yeah, if I'm the Knicks, he's untouchable. Julius Randle's untouchable. I'm not trading Mitchell Robinson because I can't until January. But
well, then guess what? You're not getting Donovan Mitchell. Plain and simple.
I mean, at some point, Donovan Mitchell's gonna be like, "Hey, Utah, I don't want to be here. Like while you rebuild this roster, please trade me away." And the asking price will go down. But at now, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, you're not just gonna give away Donovan Mitchell, but the Knicks they're in a bit of trouble. Because, I mean, Jalen Brunson's your starting. I mean, their starting 5, I think, is solid. But when you get to, Quentin Grimes is a young player, is decent. I mean, Isaiah Hartenstein, who they re-signed. Obi Toppin, who's kind of meh as a pro. Emmanuel Quickly's been okay. I mean, Derrick Rose, if he's healthy. Miles McBride was very good in the summer league. Let's see if that translates onto the NBA floor. Jericho Sims. Yeah, pretty good in the summer league.
He is stupid athletic. Like, bro, like, dude is... Like, have you ever seen him jump? Have you ever seen like it is? Oh my god! But like you said, Derrick Rose, when healthy, is he's turned himself into a constant in the 6th man of the year race. He just always is out of the running because he just doesn't play in enough games to qualify for the award. And the Knicks just aren't in the he had a great shot to win it. The year they were the 4 seed, but he didn't play enough games. And then last year, not only did he not play enough games, but they sucked.
Yeah, they are not good at all.
So I think a loser. We already touched on it. Minnesota is a loser. You gave up 5 first-round picks. I know it's 4 to come, but the first-round pick that you drafted this year, along with those, that's 5 first-round picks and a bunch of other players. For a one-dimensional player, bro, it's.
I mean, I have them as a loser too, but I still think Minnesota is going to be really good next season.
Okay, yeah, they're going to be really good, and they're also top heavy. So if they're,
but a lot of rosters in the NBA are built very similar, where they got really good starting lineup and then just kind of meh at the bench. It's just
no. I mean, that it's few and far in between, but I'm I kind of have an idea on how to attack the Minnesota Timberwolves, and if it's all I gotta do is count one, I gotta throw Cat off his game, which has been proven that's easy. All I gotta do is get in his head. Once you get in Karl Anthony Towns' head, you got him. What's his name? Rudy Gobert's he's never been an offensive threat, so you're 4-on-5 offensively, so you don't
Yeah.
You ain't got to worry about Rudy Gobert scoring. D'Angelo Russell, when he on, he on. When D'Angelo when he is on, he is on. And Anthony Edwards, in my opinion, is now the best player on that team. The game ain't even slowed down to him yet, and he's already a problem.
Yeah. No,
Like
without a doubt.
like he just out there going through the motions, playing ball, having fun right now. But when the game actually slows down for him, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're a problem. Um,
Yeah,
but
connected to your loser there is the Atlanta Hawks. So they basically gave up basically their future to get DeJounte Murray as being like the last piece to a championship caliber roster, right? And I'm just not totally sure that DeJounte Murray he's good, but like, is he the final piece to a team? I'm not so sure. And they gave up a lot of first round picks and a lot of assets to get him. I have the Hawks as a mini loser. I think the deal makes sense, but I just don't. I don't think
and
DeJounte Murray is the last piece to a championship level roster.
and we can't mention the Lakers without mentioning the Brooklyn Nets. Like
Yeah.
this whole this whole Kyrie KD ordeal. Don't I'm like I'll just say this and then we can move on from it. Like in the national media, I'm so sick of y'all talking about it. Like every day, it's this team is now in the running is allegedly in the running for KD. No, they're not. Washington, Washington has never been a dark horse to land Kevin Durant, even in free agency. He's from the DC area. He's from the DMV area, right? And so I'm gonna need y'all to stop that until something actually happens with Haiti, with Kyrie, with Westbrook, with Bradley Beal, with Damian Lillard. Until something actually happens, shut the hell up. Your shows are becoming unwatchable. It really is.
I've kind of stopped watching all of those shows. It's all just the same stuff every
like
day. Like, they don't talk
it's
about it. They literally don't talk about anything new ever.
bro, it's KD, Kyrie, Westbrook, something football. Back to the KD topic, back to the Kyrie topic, back to the Westbrook topic, something football, and so on and so forth. Something that it's just until I get it, it's a talking point, but you've already regurgitated everything that needs to be said. Like we know Kevin Durant is a malcontent. Like we know it doesn't take much to get KD to ruffle KD's feathers, which in all honesty, calling KD soft because he claps back at certain people. No, you're talking about me, and then you're
you guys expect me just to take this stuff? Like, if I'm supposed to just sit there and take all this criticism? Like, no, I deserve to have some say. Like, you guys don't just talk smack about me and have me say nothing about it. And then when I do complain about when I do try to clap back, you call me soft. Like,
call me soft.
It's a vicious cycle. The NBA media is probably the worst of all of the, because of how visible the players are. Because of how they're almost bigger than the sport sometimes. Like, LeBron is bigger than the sport. That doesn't happen as often in other sports where the players involved become bigger than the sport itself. Like, LeBron is bigger, right?
In some cases, you gotta especially a team sport aspect, right? You gotta you could say at one point in time maybe Tom Brady was bigger than the NFL, but Tom Brady has never because Tom Brady went to court. Tom Brady was literally fighting the entire NFL in a court battle, and he literally only lost because he had to go to training camp. If training camp was not a thing, Tom Brady would have kept fighting the NFL over deflated footballs, right?
Yeah.
And on top of that, there's also other names, right? You at the time of Tom Brady at the peak of his powers, you had a Peyton Manning, you had a Joe Flacco, you had a Big Ben, you had an Aaron Rodgers. Now a Westbrook, a Russell Wilson. Now,
yep.
You got the young guns. You got Pat Mahomes, Herbert, Joe Burrow was up and coming, right? We're still trying to figure out what.
Josh Allen, baby, come on! Don't you snub Josh Allen.
I was getting to that.
I was kidding, man. Come on.
Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen is the MVP favorite right now. Right?
He's gonna win the MVP.
Oh, he's still gonna win the MVP. But
sure.
and and you can make the argument Tiger Woods at one point in time was bigger than the game of golf.
Oh, he still might be.
And he still might be. But KD is like, and LeBron's probably the only player that can literally attest to what KD is kind of going through in the terms of KD is literally criticized for everything that he does. Right?
Yeah, it's true.
And me personally, the only thing that he rightly should have been judged or criticized harshly for is blowing a 3-1 lead.
Yeah. I mean, I have never had an issue with him like going to the Warriors.
So like
people want to play. Let him play basketball where he wants. It's his life. If he wants to play basketball where he thought he'd have the most fun and like win 2 rings, we'll go to the finals 3 years in a row.
Would have been the 3-peat had he not torn the Achilles. Like I'm just really just throwing it up.
If he hasn't, he wasn't hurt during that playoff run and then got hurt towards Achilles in Game 3. Let me just rip through a couple of my other losers before we move on to the other categories.
But real quick, like he's criticized for going to Golden State. He leaves Golden State. He gets criticized for that. Like the narrative becomes, oh, you're leaving Golden State. You're leaving Steph Curry for Kyrie Irving because he fucking can.
Yeah, we've come to the era of player movement and players can make their own decisions.
And now he wants to leave Brooklyn and he's being criticized for that. So it's like,
well, I mean that's turned into a circus. I would want to leave if I was him too. I mean, you come back, you come out, you make a historic return off an Achilles tear that like ends people's careers, and you just have to deal with all this nonsense all the time. I'd want to get out of there too. Real quick, three other real quick losers before we move on to the favorite, worst, head scratching, and value. Real quick. So another one is the Washington Wizards. It's not so much that they gave Bradley Beal the max contract. I knew that was going to happen, but then they gave him the no trade clause. I don't understand. He's like one of only 10 players in the history of the league that has a no trade clause. I don't get it. He's going to be paid like a top 10 player. He's probably not even a top 30 player in the NBA right now. I think the argument can be made he's somewhere in like 25 to 30 range. They're going to be paying and now he's basically so like he always thought was like, hey, he signed this max contract. He'd play there like one season, then he'd get traded in the offseason. But now that they gave him this no trade clause, they've completely hampered their ability to trade him away if they need to. The Wizards, Bradley Beal should never have still been on the Washington Wizards. They should have traded him away 2 years ago when they realized, hey, John Wall is going to be injured forever. Let's trade away Bradley Beal so we can get some assets for him because they basically have crippled their future because a Bradley Beal-led Wizards team is not going to go to the finals. It's just not. And then the Phoenix Suns, everything they did with that DeAndre Ayton situation was a mess. And they basically have hampered their ability to make future moves based on the way they handled it. And they've taken themselves out of the Kevin Durant sweepstakes as well, at least until January. The Phoenix Suns, not a good free agent offseason for the Phoenix Suns, to say the least. And then finally, Colin Sexton. A little bit surprised that he hasn't been signed or you have not heard anything about Colin Sexton, who was a 22 point per game scorer just a season and a half ago. I know he injured his meniscus early last season and basically didn't play at all. But the fact that we don't hear any rumors at all about Colin Sexton is very interesting.
Not even in-house rumors.
Yeah, like he's a good basketball player, and I don't really understand why he hasn't been signed at this point. I mean, he's a restricted free agent, so Cleveland can match. But like the fact that nobody's offered him a 10-year contract, nothing, it's really head scratching to me. I don't really get it.
I kind of liken it to. Like even like where does he go? Like who offers him that contract?
I think Dallas makes a whole lot of sense, but I don't know. It's very interesting. The fact that Colin Sexton hasn't had there hasn't been a lot of rumors with him, and like he's a good basketball player. Like I don't get it.
like if I'm like real talk, I get he's probably coming back off. I mean, he's going to be back this season. But if there was ever a team that needed that punch, that 6-man punch off the bench. Hey, Denver.
Yeah.
Denver. Colin Sexton.
I mean, they have Jordan Clarkson still.
Denver, not Utah.
Oh, duh. Yeah. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, especially since they traded away Will to Thrill Barton. Yeah.
So, and of course, what more needs to be said on Miles Bridges? Like,
yeah.
Bro, come on, man. Like,
yeah, figure out your life, and the NBA will figure itself out afterwards. So, because, his problems is bigger than basketball right now.
Right, just just do better. Like I get it. You know, your SO, you know, makes you mad, but at no point in time should your SO ever make you mad to the point where you got to put your hands on it.
100%. No
Like,
argument there.
come on, man. Like that's. All right, I'm good. Go ahead.
Yeah. So let's move on to the favorite signing so far, and then worst and head scratching and value. Let's start with favorite. My favorite signing is John Wall. I loved him in LA. I love him on the Clippers. I think him to get out of purgatory that's been Houston the last 2 seasons. That's my favorite signing so far.
Yeah, I just hope he just again like the big gripe on John Wall is, bro, just staying healthy. Like you just want John Wall to actually be on the court, and this is going to be the first time in a long time that he's going to have an opportunity to play meaningful basketball. We haven't seen John Wall do that in quite a while.
5 years, something like that.
Right? So obviously, my favorite signing is keeping the home, well, not quote unquote hometown guy home, like Zach LaVine staying in Chicago.
Yep.
That's just a personal, you know, me being selfish kind of thing. Another favorite signing was Devin Booker getting his max, because if there was ever a dude who deserved a max contract with dealing with nonsense on the side, it's Devin Booker. Like for him to be the best player on a not bad, horrible team.
Historically bad team. Like they 19-20 wins a year bad. Like dropping 70 points and still losing by 30 bad. Like that was the thing. Like at one point in time you were down by 30 in that game. You didn't lose by 30, but you scored 70 points, and then all I can remember is like, bro, at some point in time you were down by 30 in this game, bro. Like, and then that stupid picture that they took where they're like, he's got that 70, like they got blew out by 30. He's got that 70, like it's just, yeah, I agree with you. How about worst signing?
Zion. Like I'm happy for him getting this. Oh, and another favorite is Ja Morant. Ja Morant has completely, like, if Ja Morant is Memphis, right?
It's
like
true.
Like he is, like, I'm just leave that at that. But yeah, Zion getting his max contract when he has a career total of 81 career NBA games, right? Like Bulls fans were, Zach LaVine's not worth the max. So if Zach LaVine's not worth the max, please tell me y'all feel the same way about Zion getting his max. Like, again, like as we mentioned at the top of this, Zion has a weight clause in his contract that if he is over the listed weight in said contract, he loses money.
It's 295 has to he combine his weight plus his body fat index.
So if Zion, guess what happens to Zion Williamson if he comes in the training camp out of shape or overweight? He loses money.
So hopefully that's the incentive to keep himself in shape. My least favorite signing is this Bradley Beal contract. 5 years, $251 million. It's not as much about the money as this no trade clause. I don't understand. Like, he's one of only 10 players in history league to have a full no trade clause. I Washington was going to have to give this contract. This is like in order to not lose the asset, but you didn't have to give him a no trade clause. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you give this guy? It's my least favorite signing. It makes 0 sense whatsoever to why they give him this trade clause. It's not even about the money. It's just about that no trade clause. It makes 0 sense whatsoever. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't. You got it. Like, do you have another worst, or do you have a head scratching? You want?
No, I have a head scratching. So it's Gary Harris to the Orlando Magic. I just don't understand why they would bring him.
Mine is Mo Bamba with the Orlando Magic. Like, dude, you could have went elsewhere and had a way bigger role.
Gary Harris too. Like, I don't understand why you would go back to Orlando. Like, if you're Gary Harris, like, you should be trying to like win basketball games. Like, Orlando's like, I don't understand. Like,
Mo Bamba literally could have came to Chicago and definitely started. Like, Mo Bamba could have. Like 100% started. Like, you keep Patrick Williams in that second unit where where he kind of can be himself. Like, he can get the ball. Like, he can play with. Like, he can be Patrick Williams, like the Patrick Williams that we saw that last game of the season against Minnesota where he has the ball in his hand and he's playmaking and he's shooting like that Patrick Williams, right? But yeah, like that's my head scratching. Like Mo Bamba staying in Orlando, and it's just like, yo, what's the point?
Same with Gary Harris. Like I literally do not get it.
Point?
Like why would you go back there? Why would you want to stay there? Like he barely played last season. Whatever. How about value pick? For me, it's Kevon Looney, 3 years, $25 million. The guy was super valuable in the playoffs. The fact that they got him for 3 years, like, what was it like? I don't know what that math is. It's like $7 million a year. It's nothing. It's literally nothing for a starting center in the NBA.
It's not, and he's the type of dude where it's like you don't have to throw the bag at him to make him happy. Like he knows what he is. He's probably, and it was probably one of those situations where it's like I'm not gonna get this kind of money from anybody else. So I'm just.
I think Kevon Looney could have, like, if he had gone to the open market. I think he could have gotten.
I don't know because, he doesn't have a Steph Curry or a Klay Thompson anywhere else in the NBA to utilize him what he does well. Like his IQ is, it's off the mark. Like everybody can use a guy like him like that.
A guy who rebound, hustles, energy.
Like that.
He reminds me a lot of Kenneth Faried, only a little bit less talented than Faried.
And how that dude is not in the NBA right now is, and I don't know what happened, but I like him to like coming into the NBA like literally way too early at the wrong time. Like he missed the beat by like 2 years. But
if he comes in like 2 years later, like Kenneth Faried is still like in the league doing whatever.
I think the best value for me would probably be Brogdon to Boston. Like we saw what kind of hindered Boston in the playoffs, where it was like. And they were, what's his name? Grant Williams was on a podcast. I forgot whose, but he kind of said that it was like you saw the levels in basketball between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors because Boston would get Golden State down 10, 12, 15 points, and then Boston would start doing dumb stuff, iso ball, turning the ball over, and then Golden State never changed from the course. Like all right, we're gonna run our shot, we're gonna run our plays, we're gonna get our shots. It's almost like they're not almost like they were banking on Boston falling apart, and lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. So getting a guy like Malcolm Brogdon allows that team to now, all right, they're on a little 6-0 run. The league's down from 15 to 11 or 9. It's like, all right, calm down. We're going to run our sets. No more of this ISO Jason Tatum 1-on-3. Jaylen Brown 1-on-3. Like, no, we're gonna do something where we incorporate the ball movement, and everybody's going to touch the ball. We're going to find the best shot. So Malcolm Brogdon to Boston is definitely.
So that deal, Aaron Nesmith, Daniel Tice, and then Nick Stauskas, Malik Fix, and Juwan Morgan, and a 2023 first-round pick. Only 2 of those players I mentioned of those 5 are relevant at all. Aaron Nesmith, I think he shot 53% at 3 when he came out of college at Vanderbilt, right? Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
I may be mixing him up with somebody else. But it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think that trade is extreme value.
Yeah. Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
I mean, so he's in. Him going to India, like he's now in a position where he can actually, he can play now.
Yeah.
Right. So Aaron Nesmith, I can't really call Aaron Nesmith a bust because he was in a situation where it's like, all right, so who do you play him over? Like, do you play him? Like, do you give Jason Tatum some of Jason Tatum's minutes to him? Like, no.
Jaylen Brown. I mean, this is what happens. I mean, you have a player that was drafted many sort of in the lottery, and he doesn't really get a ton of playing time. This is what happened with Marvin Bagley, or not Marvin Bagley, Aaron, the kid, the other guy they have on this roster right now, Jason Smith, the kid that was on the Phoenix Suns. Like, you get these.
The big man.
Yeah. Jalen Smith, I think it might be Jalen Smith, but that doesn't you get these fringe lottery picks, and then you trade them to teams that are rebuilding. You give them a chance to play and actually shine. they could become, a valuable asset. This is a kid that could really shoot the basketball in college. So, yeah, that's a good trade for all around, best value all around. So let's get into GOAT Talk, my friend. It's time. GOAT Talk, NBA conversation. Let's go.
All right, so more traditional GOAT Talk this year. All right, so this player.
You want to explain the premise right quick?
All right, so once again, GOAT Talk is we take two random NBA players and we compare, like, who would you rather have, who had the better career, all that good stuff. And we never do, like, the heavy hitter names. Like, we never do Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron. Like, we don't do those because those conversations are done to death. And it's to the point where neither side is going to be swayed to the other. So, yeah, we're just going to
All right, let's go. Give me player one. I love trying to guess the players. It's probably my most fun part of the whole thing. Let's go.
And it puts shine on players who probably didn't get enough respect throughout their entire career. So, player one was a second-round draft pick in 2005 by the Golden State Warriors. He played for the Warriors, the Bucks, the Mavs, and the Pacers. He won Most Improved in 2007. He was a Mr. Basketball, Mr. Basketball for like the entire country in 2005. Oh, by the way, he did not go to college. He was a high school player. He got drafted right out of high school. And he was a McDonald's All-American, first team parade All-American.
Is that the last year that somebody could be drafted right out of high school?
2000, I think it was.
Oh, I know who this player is. Okay. Continue.
Did you look it up?
No, I didn't. I know who it is.
Career points, 14,858 points. He averaged 17 a game, or 18 because it says 17.8. We'll round that up to 18. He averaged 18 points a game, 3.5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game. Who is player one?
It's Monte Ellis.
Player one is Monte Ellis.
Yeah, once you mentioned that he came straight out of high school, and then you got mentioned drafted by the Warriors, and I thought about the other teams you mentioned: Pacers, Bucks, Mavs. I was like, it's Monte Ellis.
Player two was a lottery pick, first round, 14th overall in 1996.
Okay.
1996. Started off overseas. Played for the Kings, the Pacers, the Hornets, the Raptors, and the Mavericks. One-time NBA champ, but that championship came at the latter stages of his career where he wasn't the same player. Like, he was, reduced to like end of the bench rotational guy. Like, hey, if it's a blowout, we'll get you in there kind of minutes. So, like, that's the championship he won. Like, he was that player on the championship roster. He's a 3-time All-Star. All-NBA second team in 2004. His numbers retired. I'm not going to tell you what team because that's a giveaway. His numbers retired. And he has a bunch of EuroLeague achievements. But he averaged 17 a game, 17 on the money, 17.0, 17 points a game, 5 boards a game, and 2 assists a game.
Man, I don't even have a legit guess on this. So wait, let me get the teams again. So Kings, Pacers, Raptors, Mavericks,
Hornets.
And he started overseas. 96. 2004 All-NBA second team. Who did he win the title for?
Can't tell you. That's a giveaway.
Well, the only team that's won a title in any time recently is the Mavericks. So it has to be somebody who played on that Mavericks team that won the title in 2010. Come on, give me something. Give me something else. There's gotta be a better hit you can give me than this. Like something.
Okay, I'll give you the team that retired his number. The Kings retired his number.
Is it Stojakovic?
It is Stojakovic.
The Kings retired Peja Stojakovic's number. That's surprising.
Yes, number 16 is retired by the Sacramento Kings. Yes, it is.
I didn't even realize Peja was on that Mavericks team.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. All right, so if I had to pick between these two players, as much as I love Monte Ellis, he's what was at one point one of my favorite players in the NBA. He had like that game against the Bulls where he shot like 40 shots in that game and scored like 50. Was it a 50-point game? But he took like 50 shots in the game, or was it 40 shots in the game he took? All I remember is that the next day on Around the Horn, Jay Mariotti went on Around the Horn, and the entire time he was on camera, he would just shoot like the entire time, and it was like the next day, and I was like, man, Jay Mariotti is such a savage, man. And it wasn't that much longer after that appearance on the show that he basically got kicked off Around the Horn, and basically was like banned from all the ESPN programming. Like not even that much longer after that. But I'm going to take Peja. I think his impact on those King teams was more pronounced. Monte Ellis, he was a good basketball player, but I don't think he was really a ceiling raiser anywhere he went. So yeah, give me Peja, but it's close. It's close. Who would you take between those two guys?
I have a friend that same age as my brother. Like we used to play 2K together all the time, and I would give him absolute fits with the Sacramento Kings and Peja Stojakovic to the point where he would get the Detroit Pistons, because this is when the Pistons were the Pistons, like they Eastern Conference Final, Big Shot Billups, Ben Wallace, like holding Rip Hamilton, like he would have to get that team to beat, like I might have lost the game, but I had Peja Stojakovic looking like the second
coming.
Like I'm doing things that Steph Curry doing with Peja Stojakovic. I'm pulling up from 35, 36 feet. Like I'm getting, like I remember I played distinctively. Like I won the tip to Mike Bibby, and the first thing I did was kicked it to Stojakovic before he could get a man on him, and I just let it rip. And I'm like, start the game with a 3. People forget how pissed off Warrior faithful were when they chose Steph Curry over Monte Ellis.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like hindsight 2020, like yeah, you made the good move now, but when you decided to trade Monte Ellis away, Steph Curry was brittle. He was brittle, Steph Curry. Like his ankles couldn't hold up. Like he had those special ankle braces, ankle supports that he had to wear. And Monte Ellis was just to your point, Monte Ellis was like, there was never a shot Monte Ellis took that he didn't like.
Yeah, no.
But that championship that Stojakovic was on, that Mavericks team, he only played in the regular season, he only played in 25 games. He played in 19 playoff games that year. So like he was really reduced to that vet role. I mean, like he's not complaining about it. Like you can't take it away from him. He's a champion, right? Like he averaged 7 points a game in that playoff run, which, hey, like in the playoffs, you take every point you can get.
I mean, that's not bad. I mean, that's not terrible.
That's not terrible. And Monte Ellis was just, by his second or third year in the league, Monte Ellis, Monte was a bucket. Like
he was super good. Like undersized guard who could.
Like, bro, like his rookie year, Monte Ellis went from 6 points a game to 16 and a half to 20, 19, 25, 24, 21, 17, 19, 19, 18, 13, 8.5, and by 28, that was like his last year in the league. Right? Like Monte Ellis was a bucket. His attitude obviously wasn't really
ideal.
Right? So it's tough. Like I agree with you taking Stojakovic, like because of stuff like that. And like you got the height difference. Like Stojakovic was another dude. Like he was 6'10". People forget. Like people thought like Peja was walking around like 6'7", 6'8". Like no, buddy was 6'10".
229 pounds. Like the dude had some girth to him. That's for damn sure.
and I think what it's not a trap, but people tend to forget that when players come over, like when your elite players come over, they kind of dumb down their skill set to play in the NBA because one thing I noticed about majority of EuroLeague players, except like a Rudy Gobert because he's probably never been that. What do you notice about even the big men? What do you notice about most EuroLeague players outside of them being able to shoot the ball? They can handle. They can handle the rock. So like if you go back and look at young highlights of Vlade Divac when he played in Croatia, Vlade Divac, and when he came to the Lakers, Vlade Divac was getting the rebound, leading the break. Like, let's go. Same thing with Pau Gasol. Right? Getting the ball off the break. Dirk, he wasn't leading no break because Dirk was slow as hell. But Dirk had a decent handle for him to be 7 foot to the point where he could turn face up, dribble 1-2, 3, pull up, and getting buckets. So Stojakovic, when he came to the league, he was primarily a sniper. He's a sharpshooter, and he was damn good on that New Orleans team.
I mean, he won two. What was it? 2 3-point contests? Yeah. So.
And he was damn good on that New Orleans team when they got Chris Paul and Tyson Chandler.
And I remember that. Hey, I remember that. And David West.
So like, yeah, I mean, and those 3-point contests that he won, those were back to back. That was 2002 and 3. Like he won both.
Yeah, I think he finally lost to Jason Capono, right?
Capono won in what 05, 06, and then 06, 07. So I don't think he was a part of those, right?
Hold on. Oh, so all right. So he lost the Vashawn Leonard beat him.
Okay, Vashawn Leonard had a torch. Like keep it a buck. Vashawn Leonard had a torch.
It's true. But yeah, I would still take Peja. I think it's close. I think that's a real good comparison. I love Monte Ellis though. I think Monte Ellis he's probably one of my top 10 favorite players of all time. Like I love Monte Ellis.
Like, so. and we caught the tail end of Vashawn Leonard. So like when we finally started watching basketball and understanding what was going on, like we caught Vashawn Leonard in like his Toronto Raptor, Denver Nugget, Portland Trailblazer days. Like that's when we caught Vashawn. Like he won the NBA champ. He won the NBA 3-point contest in 2004.
Yeah, when he was a member of the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, this has been the crossover. I've been David Huppman right there, Mr. TJ Hopkins. And TJ, you should probably get some sleep, man. It's Friday, buddy. It's time to enjoy life a little bit if you don't have to work tomorrow. So
no, I don't. I got my nieces here, so they're talking about going to Navy Pier tomorrow.
There you go. It'll be fun.
Like if I decide to go because like
you should go.
No, like we got like 3 weeks before the new school year starts, and gotcha. It's kind of crunch time, so we gotta like pedal to the metal to get some stuff done, and that's not like we still got quite a few things to do. So if I'm not exhausted from tonight's workload, then I will definitely go to Navy Pier with my youngins, because yeah.
That's what's up, man. But yeah, this has been the Prime Sports World. This is bringing our edition of the crossover. I'm in David Huppman. Right there is Mr. TJ Hopkins. Please like, share, and subscribe. And on Sunday, we are going to be doing our Cincinnati season preview. We are down to the last 5 teams before the start of the NFL season, and this is the final week without some sort of NFL action in our lives. Thursday is the Hall of Fame game. I do not remember who's playing in it, but you finally get some NFL. But the Hall of Fame game is next week, so continue to enjoy that. I've been David Huppman, TJ Hopkins. TJ, what we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat.
Yes, sir. And I will see you on Sunday, man. You have a great weekend, buddy.
You too, man.
All right, peace out, brother.
Enjoy Fort Wayne.
I'm not in Fort Wayne yet. This is actually my parents' house. I got to drive back on Sunday.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, so I've been driving a lot. It's a whole thing, dude. I start my new job on Monday. So.
All right, cool.
I'll see you later, buddy.